What's going on, ladies and gents in Cyberland? Coming back to you with another film review, and this time we are on to Last Action Hero. So this film stars Arnold Schwarzenegger, and this film came out not too long after Terminator 2, and unfortunately, at the box office, it didn't do too well. I guess a lot of people consider it a bomb. But I remember seeing it from time to time, not fully the whole film. I would see bits and pieces of it on HBO and I think Showtime, I think it was. And it was just kind of like quirky. I didn't really get it at the time. And then when I finally decided that I was going to actually go back and really sit through the film and just watch it and decide to come up with a review, that's when I realized actually it's a really good film. It's a really good film. It's the point of the movie is to basically take everything about action films and what makes them appealing to people and kind of flip it on its head. And basically, how action films try to be real macho and real serious and just big explosions and everything. It takes all the elements of an action film and it completely just goes over the top to where it's just ridiculous. And it's hilarious. It's just like, I think at the time the film was supposed to, it was trying to get people to not take action films seriously. And I think it just, at the time, it just didn't catch people like it would now. I mean, if the film had come out probably in the last 10, 15 years, it would be just superb. Because I think during the early 90s and the 80s, it was just, people, when they saw an action film, they expect a certain thing. This film is supposed to be an action film, but honestly, when I look back on it now, it's more of a comedy. The film stars a kid where he's into Jack Slater, and Jack Slater's Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's into those movies. He watches them. That's like his hero and his big go-to. He lives in New York, and he decides to see the fourth film before it's going to get released to the public. And the guy who owns the theater gives him like this ticket that said it was given to him by Houdini, and it's like a magic ticket or whatever. So he doesn't really pay much attention to it. He starts watching the film, and as soon as Jack Slater comes on the screen, it's just ridiculous. it's just ridiculous. And then at some point while he's watching the film, he somehow gets sucked into the film itself, and he knows everything about Jack Slater and where he's at and everything. And he's kind of like he knows what things are going to happen before they happen because he's already seen scenes where Jack Slater wasn't present, but the villains were and stuff. And anyway, we also get cameos. We get cameos from a couple people like Sharon Stone and Robert Patrick, Danny DeVito. So it's pretty... And there was a couple other characters too. I just can't remember off the top of my head, but it's pretty cool. And if you like... This film is really for people that have seen a lot of action films from the 80s, that you would totally get this character, you would get this character, you would get this character, you would get this character. Like, and also probably drama. A lot of famous drama films, if you've seen them, you would get a lot of these situations when the main character, Danny, says certain things like, "Watch it, Slate, he killed Mozart." And it's like, wait, what? Like, at the time when I was a kid, I didn't get it. But then as an adult, like, oh, Amadeus. Because the guy that was... And Amadeus is in this film, but he's playing a different character, and it's pretty funny. I would say the thing that really, where things become pretty serious, is the villain realizes that he's in a movie, and he's going to exploit that in a really bad way. And I think that's where things, like, at first it's a comedy, and then it starts to become real serious, because what happens when the magic falls into the wrong hands and how it can be utilized for evil kind of thing. So that was interesting. And then seeing cameos from other action stars in the film towards the end and stuff, that was pretty cool too. So For everybody who is watching, I'm kind of doing things a little different moving forward with my movie reviews, so I'm going to kind of break it down a little bit. The theme kind of delves into satire and movies versus the real world. How the reason why we watch movies is for a form of escapism, and we see in this film that when Danny goes back to the real world, it's not it's a reminder of how much he hates dealing with reality. And even Jack questions him about it, and then he just tells him, like, because this world sucks. AKA, even the villain plays off of that when he realizes that in the movie world, the good guys tend to win, but in reality, I guess you could say it's... I want to say the bad guys always win, but it's... You know, kind of put your own spin on that, your own opinion about that. And then how films are a fantasy for people, but then what happens when you become so immersed in that world that you almost try to remove yourself from reality as much as possible because of how you may feel about where you live. If you're not making the right amount of money, or things are not going for you, that you use films as a way to just shut off all the crap you have to kind of deal with during the day. So that's another thing. The direction and tone of the film was pretty straightforward. It at first it was action and then comedy, and then probably more than halfway through it started to become very dark and very drama-like, where it still had the action, but the comedy was pretty much gone, and it was just action and drama. It stopped, like, halfway through the film was lighthearted, and then the other half it's not fun anymore, kind of thing. So that was interesting. The performances of the characters, such as Jack Slater, Danny, and even Benedict, were great. I think one of my favorite scenes was with Benedict when it was two scenes. The first scene was when they actually first met him, and he's like, "Who's asking?" And all of a sudden, Slater's like, whips out his badge, like, "The Tin Man." And he's like, "Well, Tin Man, you and Toto can go back to the land of Oz." And I really liked that part. Like how he was just so smooth about his verbiage with Slater. I thought that was really cool. And then the second time was when he showed up to Slater's daughter's, I think, apartment, I think it was apartment or condo. And Danny opens the door, and the guys are there. And the way the guys look is just like, they don't even look like they're real. They just look like statues and just staring straight. And Benedict is right in front of us, just like, "Hello, Toto." And Danny tries to shut the door, and they bang, boom. And they come in, and then Benedict is snapping fingers, and the guys have this look on their face like they're real macho, serious bad guys kind of thing. And it's real comical. And then the interaction between Danny and Benedict, that whole scene, and even Bridget Nielsen was just hilarious. Like, that whole scene was like real. Like, I was just laughing just because the way Danny would interact with the villain, but the way Benedict would react to some of his mannerisms. Even the bad guys would be like they would just be shocked with how he was so, like, he wasn't intimidated or scared. And I think that's what made it funny. It was like they're expecting people they take hostage to take it more seriously, and he was just like having a blast. And that's what made it even funnier. So yeah, so my rating for the film, I give it a 9 out of 10, yes sirs. I would say back then it just wasn't, the audience wasn't ready for this film. But I definitely would say that if you watch it now, especially if you're 20 years old, 30 years old, you will totally get what they're trying to do with the film, because it's literally meant to be satire, but then halfway through it starts to become something more serious, and I think that really worked. Where it wasn't comedy the whole time, but it was meant to draw you in with just the ridiculousness of it, but then eventually show you like, hey, there's something more to this than just what we're showing. So I really thought that was great. Anyway, I will catch you guys in the next one. Ciao.